Good evening. My name is Sabulela and I'm the Deputy Chair of BMF's Young Professionals in the KZN region. Today, I'm wearing the hat of a host and a facilitator for tonight's webinar that speaks to a very interesting topic. One that's not addressed as much as it should be, especially since we live on the very treacherous internet. But before we jump into it, Black Management Forum is one of the most sought after thought leadership organizations with over 14,000 members. Its focus is to develop Black managerial leadership skills and competencies and has been doing so since 1976. The MF Young Professionals is the youth leg of the mother body and seeks to empower its constituents with knowledge and access to programs that focus on professional and entrepreneurial competency development. We also play an integral role in community development initiatives that have a sustained impact on the communities we serve. All right, now that you know a little about who we are, let's get on to the business of the day. Just a bit of housekeeping. The first 20 minutes will be a presentation. You're more than welcome to engage on the chats during this time. We will address as many questions as possible during the Q&A, which is straight after the presentation. And for those that are not shy, simply raise your digital hand and I will call your name and you can share your thoughts, insights, any questions you may have really around this topic, and we see how we fare from there. Right, so personal branding. I actually read a blog the other day by a guy called Werner Giza, and he was essentially describing what personal branding is. One of the things that he says in that blog is in the pre-internet days, personal branding was captured by a business card. Sounds familiar, right? But who used to carry business cards? It would always be your executives, senior management, the entrepreneurs. It was always the money makers. You would hardly find a payroll administrator carrying a business card, right? But nowadays, personal branding affects everybody. Well, how, you may ask? Well, let me ask you, how many people in this call actually have a LinkedIn profile or any social media profile for that matter? Digital hands, yes, no? And how many of you consider those to be business cards, your digital business cards, as it were? Have you ever considered it that way? And once you ponder on that, did you know that the top 2 platforms that recruiters search for candidates is on career sites such as PNet, Career24, as well as LinkedIn? Did that ever cross your mind? Before I give you a headache with all these daunting questions, let me introduce my esteemed guest, who is the expert at personal branding and will hopefully help us navigate this space a little bit better after this webinar. I won't say much about her since she will share much of her story, but to highlight just a few things about her. She's an attorney by profession, but has since moved into the brand and marketing space and thoroughly enjoys public speaking, specializing obviously in personal branding. She was also dubbed the top student at Sanlam's business management program in the 2020-2021 cycle. She's extremely passionate about youth empowerment. Hopefully you'll see this in the presentation as well, and has offered her insights and expertise in companies such as the Black Lawyer Association, MSD Pharmaceuticals, and EOH, to name just a few. Without further ado, please help me welcome Miss Nontutugo Mhlungu. Sorry, wrong platform. Hi, Noni.
No pressure, Sia. Thank you so much for that beautiful intro. Hello to everybody who's online. My lighting is really not working for me today, guys. So please do forgive me. Yeah, I don't normally do presentations at this hour. So yeah, but I'm really excited about the session and I'm hoping that this will be mutually beneficial, that we will engage and learn from one another. I don't want it to be a death by PowerPoint, but I'm hoping to share some useful nuggets that, you can all walk away with and, hopefully give you something to think about. That's what I want for all of us to walk away from this session. All right, without any further ado then, let's get right into personal branding. What is this animal called personal branding? All right, so let me just move this down here. let's maybe start with a definition, not an exhaustive one, but one that I happen to like. Personal branding is the way in which you portray yourself and your skills to the world. It's all about how you want the world to see and perceive you. In some cases, personal branding comes naturally through a person's unique personality. And for other people, it can be harder to define and will take some time or take some work, to figure out. I really like this definition, and especially that last sentence, because it doesn't come naturally for a lot of people. I mean, ask someone to tell you who they are, like, who are you? And they struggle to articulate that. They'll often tell you, well, my name and surname is this, and this is my job title. Granted, this is part of who you are, and this is what you do, but it's not who you are, right, as a person. So what personal branding is not, it is not you trying to be a carbon copy or replica of someone else. That's not what it is. What it is, and what I hope to emphasize and highlight in this presentation, that it really is about accentuating those qualities that you already have. So really bringing those out, being aware of those qualities, accentuating them, and then of course being aware, mindful of, and then developing some of those self-sabotaging habits and behaviors that you may be engaged in and might not be aware of. So at its core, that is what it's about, but we will unpack it in further detail as we go along. All right. Okay, why is it important to have a personal brand, you may ask? So I believe, and I do believe it's true, everybody has a personal brand, whether you believe it or not. For some people, they're very intentional about crafting this personal brand. And for others, they're like, well, I don't see the importance of it, or what is it? But everybody has a personal brand, and it's better to be more intentional about crafting that personal brand rather than just leaving it to chance, because you have one by default in any event. So the question I always ask about personal branding, and one you can ask yourself, is if you were in a networking session, or you just at a braai or wherever the case might be, and you were conversing with people and you leave the room momentarily, what will those people say about you? Like, what's the impression that you've left on them? And granted, it might not always be accurate, but in the main, it usually is. So you might find that you walk out and they're like, wow, so much energy. I love her energy. She's a ball of energy. She's got great ideas. She's funny. And people just want to be around you because you just exude a certain type of, of character, right? Or you find that you're just energy draining. There's some people that you just can't get away from quick enough. They just like drain your energy. They're negative and you just don't want to be around them. You might not even be aware that you're this person, but you find that that's how people perceive you. And that's the impression that you leave on them. Or you find that, you leave a room and people ask, well, what do you think about that lady? And they say, which lady? So you are there, but you're not. You never say anything, you never contribute. And inadvertently, that becomes your brand. Like, nobody wants to come to you for ideas. They know you don't add value or contribute. And so you thinking that you're being, passive, that actually becomes your personal brand. So whether you're intentional or passive about it, what ends up happening is that you end up developing a personal brand in any event. So better to be intentional about it. All right, enough of that. So just some, it's not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the reasons that, can help you understand why it's important to have a personal brand. It helps you stand out from the crowd. Because you have a unique footprint. It's your uniqueness and authenticity. You're going to hear those words a lot in my presentation. It leads to opportunities, partnerships, promotions, and networking. So when you exude a certain type of yourself, whoever you are, without trying to be anyone else, you'll attract certain kinds of opportunities, and people want to associate themselves with you. And it inspires trust in your audience. So people want to, again, to point to, people want to associate with you, they want to partner with you. And then the last one, someone is always going to be screening you online. So Sia mentioned at the beginning that, how many of you have a LinkedIn account? Or so beyond LinkedIn, just what does your digital footprint look like, if you even have one, right? Because it speaks for you before you get a chance to speak for yourself. So just like if you're going for an interview, you first send your CV and they filter that way and they say, hey, we want to see this person. So it works much the same way. If you're going for an interview or whatever, there's a project or an opportunity, people are going to want to see your digital footprint first and see, okay, well, this person really is about this, and okay, there's credibility there. So maybe do yourselves a favor. If you've never done it, go and Google yourself and see, what comes up. Some people are not aware of some of the stuff that comes up when they Google. So just be mindful of that and maybe start being intentional about what you want to come up when people look you up. All right, then yeah, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna keep saying it, the be uniquely you, it sounds, yeah, I can't say it enough. It's about accentuating those qualities that you already have. It's not about trying to be someone else. As tempting as it may be to see someone living their fabulous life, you know, there really is no one else like you. So it really is important to embrace your uniqueness and then accentuate those qualities and develop, because it's all about self-development as well. I'm still developing those traits where you feel like, you know, you're engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors and habits you might not even be aware of. It takes someone else pointing it out, and then you start developing an awareness. You don't know what you don't know until you know, and then you can start sort of developing and improving from that point onwards. All right, how do you go about building your personal brand? All right, so I'm gonna elaborate on some of these points further down, so I'm not gonna spend too much time, but just very high level, being authentic, crafting your brand vision. What is your brand vision? Your brand vision is really, what kind of person do you aspire to be? You might not be where you want to be, but you have aspirations. So that in essence is it. What kind of person do you want to be? And then being intentional about building that, develop consistent messaging. I'll talk about that later on the social side. Define your audience. Who are you trying to speak to in your messaging, which will help you to tailor and craft your messaging. Decide what you want to be known for. That goes back again, you know, do you want to be a subject matter expert on cooking, on, you know, personal branding, on business, on whatever the case might be. Define that for yourself, and it will help you to channel your message to the right audience. And then build your social media and online presence, which I mentioned earlier on as well, and we will talk about that in the slides to come. I hope I'm not going too fast. I do want to leave time for engagement, you know, at the end. So I'm going to try and move swiftly through some of the points. But, you know, please, for the attendees, make some points. If you have any questions, then we can engage and discuss towards the end. All right, so I thought it's important for us to chat about how to show up, you know, in a virtual world, given all of our engagements have sort of gone online. Granted, some people have gone back to work, but it's still very much a hybrid sort of working environment. So these are some nuggets to be mindful of. You would think by now we would all know, but trust me, we all need reminding if we know, or to, you know, be made aware, and just, yeah, to be reminded of some of the things that we need to be mindful of with online. Another thing with showing up in a virtual world. So you might find that, you might think that your personal brand with in-person interactions is exactly the same as online. And in most cases, it's not. I personally feed off of people's energies. And so I love the in-person interaction. And I found that with the online, especially in the beginning, I became a little bit, you know, reserved, which is contrary to my personality. So it's something that was pointed out to me. And, you know, yeah, I think I'm doing a lot better now, but it's just things to be mindful of. On how you show up online is just as important as how you show up in person. So be early, it goes without saying. People are still very late with online, and they've got nowhere to drive to, you know, traffic, but people are still showing up 5 minutes late for meetings. So be early, especially if you're the meeting host or you're giving the talk. Have a clear, concise agenda, especially if you're running the session. Dress for the occasion. Pajamas are very tempting, but, you know, you still want to come across professionally and, yeah, just be presentable. So dress occasionally, at the very least. You know, up here, because, you know, people like rock their pajamas, like with the bottom. So be present and avoid multitasking. This is a big one. You know, people have the meeting going and they're busy doing their own thing, watching YouTube or whatever the case might be. So it's tempting because no one can see you. But, you know, if you're in a meeting and you want to be known to contribute, add value, you want to be listening and engaged in the meeting so that you can answer questions and add value and contribute in a meaningful way. Good lighting. I feel embarrassed saying this one because, wow. My lighting is letting me down so badly tonight. I am so terribly sorry. I don't do presentations this late normally, so my lighting normally flourishes, but have good lighting. I normally sit in front of the window, so don't have the window behind you, otherwise you're going to have the glare and you're going to look how I look right now. So you want to have the window in front of you and have all that light streaming in. No background noise, goes without saying, you know, or just mute yourself. All right, and then just to continue on this point, showing up in a virtual world continued, don't be a lurker, leave your camera on. Very tempting. I mean, I'm speaking to myself here as well. This is especially important for the presenter because I don't know how many of you have done it, but it's really nice when you're presenting to speak to faces and see their expressions. It's not nice to speak to just like this blank screen. So it's more for the benefit of the presenter more than anything else. But I know a lot of people come on and, you know, put the camera on, you know, do the whole greeting thing, and then they turn the cameras off, which is also still good etiquette, and network can be an issue sometimes. So yeah, I just think you'll sort of, yeah, you'll be mindful of that and see what works in that specific situation. Position your camera correctly, very important. So I've seen a lot of people, especially with these, you know, news interviews, these guests, the camera, the laptop literally, I'm now picking my laptop up and they sit like this, which it looks terrible. So you like literally see up the person's nose. So what you want to do, I've got like a container under my laptop right now so that I'm at eye level with it, depending on how high your desk is, but you want to try and sort of be at eye level with your camera. Test your sound and microphone, goes without saying, especially if you're playing a video, you want to make sure that the sound is coming through correctly and do that, you know, before the presentation. Familiarize yourself with the mute video buttons. Yeah, you can't say this enough. We're 2 years down and you still, you know, like, I can't find my mute button. Oh, I've been speaking by myself, and oh, I thought my video was on. So it's just something that we need constant reminding of, but I think we're getting there. And then be comfortable with sharing your screen. Again, another one, you know, you might think you have it on lockdown, your presentation is on the desktop, you know exactly where to find it. And then when the moment of truth arrives, like presentation nowhere to be found. So make sure you're very comfortable with how to share, especially if it's on a platform you're not familiar with. You might think you're familiar and that they're more or less the same. So if you've been using Teams for a while and then you have to come to Zoom, I haven't been on Zoom in a while, you might want to familiarize yourself before time to make sure you're comfortable with all the functionalities. And then the last bit on showing up in a virtual world, avoid busy slides. You would think it goes without saying, but you know, you get people that have paragraphs and paragraphs on a slide, and then they literally read it word for word. Like, you may as well have just sent me the presentation and I would have read it at home by myself. So you want to capture the points that you want to speak to, 4 or 5 high level points, and then speak to those. Don't read it word for word. There's nothing worse than that. High energy, standing really helps. I'm seated today, but standing really elevates your energy levels, because when you're doing online presentations, you really almost have to double your energy levels, you know, that you would use in an in-person session, because people's attention span is just short and they're in their own comfortable space and they can disengage like that. So you want to make sure that your energy levels are there and that your audience stays engaged throughout your presentation. Speak slowly and clearly. I'm speaking to myself because I do know that I'm a fast speaker, but for purposes of today, I am speaking fast because I want to get through this so that we can have some time to engage towards the end. But do make sure that you are articulate and you know, people can follow. You don't want to sort of just ram through the thing and no one heard what you said and it's like you just rambled. So speak, you know, slow enough, not too slow, and be clear. And also vary your tone. You know, you get a lot of people that are very monotone and they're like, today I'm going to do a presentation, and then you're going to put people to sleep like that. So vary your tone, like, you know, go up and down and just have lots of energy about you. Good screen background as well, goes without saying. I'm not a big fan of these because this is what happens, although I shouldn't really be doing this in the presentation, but they're like, yeah, I used it today because my lighting didn't really help much. I usually just leave my whatever background I have and I blur it, which I find to be a lot better. But some of them are really good. Like, I know the ones on Teams are like good quality. So if you can find a good one, great. But just be careful that it doesn't like blur you into the background. Backup power. We are in South Africa and load shedding is back with a vengeance. So best make sure that you've got some kind of backup power source, the UPS. Make sure you know what your load shedding schedule is, especially if you've got a big and important presentation. The last thing you want to do is just, you know, sort of have the power, you know, go out right in the middle and there's nothing you can do. So make sure that you know what, you know, you have a backup power source. And then lastly, engage your audience as much as possible. If time does allow, we are going to have time towards the end. So do, you know, try and engage your audience, make them feel inclusive and like they're part of the presentation as well. Right, so that was showing up in a virtual world. Now we're going to move on to the social media side of things. And most of us have social media platforms, even though you're not active on all of them. But here's some nuggets to sort of be mindful of with social media platforms. Your clear, consistent messaging through all platforms, not always possible. What I post on LinkedIn is not going to be the same as TikTok, is not going to be the same as Instagram, for example. But I think in the main, people know what to expect from Nodutsu, or like, I'm not going to post something completely contrary to my character and who I am. So I think in the main, like, yeah, people know what to expect from me, even though the platforms cater for different kinds of content. Avoid use of derogatory or offensive language, goes without saying. Avoid arguments. People are just really angry out here. So don't take everything on social media personally. Let it go. People will say what they want to say. You don't want to be caught up, with silly arguments on social media. And then be intentional about marketing your skill set, expertise, and knowledge. If that is what you want to do on your social platforms, if you know what you want to put out, for example, I put out a lot of my speaking stuff. I'm working as a brand specialist in an insurance organization, but I absolutely love speaking and coaching and developing people and conference hosting. So I put up a lot of that stuff, and I'm intentional about it. And I'm intentional about what I don't put up. And that doesn't mean I'm being inauthentic. It just means that it's on a need to know basis. You don't need to see my full life on social media, but that's just me. And then there's people that post every like blow by blow, and that's okay. But I'm intentional about the kind of content I want my friends to see, because I don't think that I need to have my full life on social media like all the time. So identify what are your aspirations, who do you want to speak to, and then that'll help you sort of to curate your content, and which platforms you post on and how frequently you need to do that. Right, so the court of public opinion. So yeah, I'm sure you recognize both these gentlemen, and I'm not going to go into the merits of what happened here. I'm not here to say what was wrong. I've merely used them to illustrate the power of a brand and a reputation. So on the left, we've got Katlego Mabo. If you are not aware, I think it was a year or so ago, he was involved in an altercation or confrontation with his then girlfriend about infidelity. And she took a video of this, it went viral. And, the public had a lot to say about this incident. What struck me was how the public, from my observation, and we can share towards the end when we discuss, I found that there was a lot of rallying behind him. People saying, he's human, he made a mistake, #cancel insurance. There was a lot of rallying behind him, and that really struck me. Like, was that his brand speaking for him, his reputation? Because up until that point, he had a very squeaky clean brand. So that was something sort of that I noted, and how, the court of public opinion played a role in how it played out. The matter was recently dismissed, actually, I think about 3 weeks ago, and he was vindicated. He is not picking up his life, he's gone back to school, and people seem to really be supporting him. So I found that very interesting. And then on the right, we've got Vusi Thembekwayo, whom I'm sure you all know, a very respected, businessman, venture capitalist, global business speaker, you name it. And about 2 months ago, there was a whole thing on social media about an assault allegation against him by his wife. It is still being adjudicated. We don't know what happened, but again, the court of public opinion came in, and people seem to have been split on that one. Like, yes, he did do it, and others were like, oh my gosh, leave him alone, give him a second chance. So again, we'll see, who's had in the main a clean reputation. I think he tried to stay out of gossip, or he's had a fairly clean reputation up until that point. And so people were very split about, did he do it, didn't he? And we will see what happens, I guess, when the matter is finalized in court. So I use these two examples just to illustrate the power of a brand, and how people very quickly make up their minds about something that's really inconclusive at the time. It's allegations, it hasn't been decided, but because you hold such a powerful maybe brand, people are very quick to either, in Katlego's case, defend you, or maybe in Vusi's case say, well, yeah, he did do it, even though we don't know what happened. So yeah, that was quite interesting to note. And then just to share a little bit, oh my gosh, it is so dark. I'm really, I'm literally feeling like I'm sitting in the dark. I'm so sorry about this lighting story. But anyway, so just to share a little bit about myself and, you know, some of the content I do put out, like I said, these are things that I really love and enjoy doing. And because of that, people affiliate me with, you know, youth development, conference hosting, emceeing, and, you know, a lot of opportunities have come and opened up as a result of that. So these are just some like images that I'm sharing with you guys. This is some of my conference hosting stuff and some of the personal branding stuff I've spoken on. Yeah, so this is, yeah, like I said, I'm quite intentional about the kind of content I do put out. I do share some social stuff, but I sort of limit that on social platforms. And then lastly, believe in yourself. As cheesy as that sounds, I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker here to say you can do anything you put your mind to, but really, like, the power of like believing in yourself is really is amazing. I recently watched the Kanye trilogy on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm not a big Kanye fan, not particularly, but what did stand out for me in that 3-part docu-series was how he almost just knew from a young age. I mean, I think he was in his early 20s, so his whole life is documented. He had a friend who was filming him from his early 20s until, you know, he hit it like really big. And the belief he had in himself is absolutely amazing to watch. And his mother had a lot to do with that. I think she instilled a lot of that belief in him. So I'm using him as, you know, one example, but really, if you don't believe in your own stuff, your brand, just like you believe in Nike and Adidas and whatever brand you like really go behind, you have to buy into your own stuff and your brand first before you expect anyone else to do that. And that is my presentation. These are just some of the key takeouts that I did speak about. Being intentional about crafting your personal brand, authenticity, cannot say it enough. Consistency in your brand, your in-person brand should always correspond with your online brand and be your biggest brand ambassador. And with that, I say thank you. That was really fun. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if, you know, there's any questions. Let's engage. What do you make of personal branding? And yeah, interested to hear. Osia, sorry, let me hand over to you. Look at me playing. It's
fine. I was still looking for the confetti, but I can't find it, so it's okay. Thank you so much for that. It was actually quite wonderful. And I suppose a reminder on specifically around being intentional on how you position yourself and in being who you are.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you touched on, and you touched on it again in the latter bit, is the part around authenticity. There's two things around that for me. It's one, we always assume that authenticity is an upward trajectory, right? Where in reality it's always a wayward. I think your story should also attest, because you moved from being an attorney into brand space and also into, you know, so I would actually like for you to share a bit of that background, because that's also part of your story that you sort of need to then package into this authenticity that you speak of, right?
Yeah. So you want me to share? Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. So I started out in the you know, legal space. Okay, I'm born and bred in a small, you know, town called Empangeni. I'm from Esikhaweni, and always very inquisitive, very argumentative, and that's why I went into the legal space, because, you know, you can argue like biggest lie. That's the worst reason to go into law. But, you know, I went, and I must say, I knew, like, in my 3rd year, I knew that, hey, man, this is not the thing. But I was like, let me just push through, because I've already made it this far. But I kind of knew, and I remember having a conversation with my dad about it. But I've always loved talking, and beyond talking, just really helping people, developing people in whatever way. So I worked a little bit in the legal space, and in 2015, I resigned. I was tired. I was like, this is not for me. I'm not going to thrive. You know, you can do a job like well enough, like you can do it, but you're like, I'm not going to thrive here. Like, I want to thrive, you know? And I think I got to that point where I was like, I don't want to just be. I'll probably just be very average here. There's a saying that TD Jakes says, just because something about, I think he uses a speaker analogy, like a speaker, you know, like a music speaker. You can sit on it, you can put food on it, you can do, you know, you can do a lot of things with it, but that's not the purpose for which it was created. So just because somebody needed you to be something doesn't mean that's what you were created to do. So that's just a space that I was in. I didn't want to just be average. I wanted to be in a space where I knew that this is my gifting and I'm going to thrive in this space. So yeah, and it's just kind of been a journey, and I've just accepted that it is a journey, and I'm not trying to get to a destination. Opportunities come and I embrace them. Some of them I say no, and I think I'm comfortable in that space right now. I hope that answers the question. I think I just kind of went left, but
no. I've always loved hearing people's stories, because that there's that point of relatability, which is not allowed in the corporate space. In the corporate space, it's you have to be, you know, prim and proper.
Yeah.
As it were. What would your opinion be or comment be on a statement that people are not ready to hear authenticity?
A
good idea, but really ready for it, because with being authentic, it comes with being nice and being harsh in the truth that you have to say in some instances. So, you know, when you speak your truth and then people are like, hey, we don't want you to be that authentic. Is there or what would you say to something like that?
And isn't that just the problem? Isn't that, it's like you have to measure yourself. And I'm guilty of it myself, especially in certain spaces, like, you know, in corporate, you can't be too much of this and you can't be, so you kind of have to measure yourself depending on where you are. And I think it's something that we really need to, it's a work in progress. And I think if you're mindful of it and you're aware and you start to, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, like I said earlier on, but if it's something that you're aware of and you're trying to change it, then hey, then that's one step in the right direction. But I do think it's something we need to just be okay with. There's too much pressure out here on social people, you know, and then we all trying to aspire to this unrealistic person. It's so bad. And if maybe there's a movement and people start to see, hey, you know, I'm 35 and I'm not where I wanted to be. I don't have 2.5 kids in the picket fence house, and you know, and that, hey, it's normal, it's okay. I think then we would have, if we start, if there's a movement and people see that it's okay, then there won't be as much pressure.
Cool. I do see a question. I'll get to it, Gugu. For everyone else, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and just give me a shout. We're gonna be talking in the meantime.
Okay, no problem.
It's very interesting. One of the things that I've noticed with corporate space, where it's moved from the suit and tie, you had to be very professional, to the Gen Zs, I guess the millennials and the Gen Zs, driving the narrative around, we want to find ourselves in spaces where they are more purpose-driven. How do you then align to that, where it's like, now I can actually wear my t-shirt and still be taken seriously? Is that only for the executives, or that even I sort of trying to climb the ladder can also say, yes, this is the real me. You get to use me for my brain and my insights.
100%. Yeah, I think there. So I mean, organizations differ, industries differ. So certain organizations and industry types are going to be more, you know, open to that kind of thing. Like, I don't mean to be stereotypical, but like the advertising industry as an example, or even the brand and marketing agencies, where they sort of more, you know, it's not. And then go to a law firm, you will not find, you won't find them in t-shirt, maybe on a Friday, but you know, in the main, it's still very formal, still very. So I think there you have to align if that's just how you want an organization like that, you have to be selective about, okay, I like, and not just for the clothing per se, but just how they are, like you said, the purpose, the mission, what are they about, and align your values to that specific industry or organization. But yeah, I think it varies. I don't think there's a, you know, everyone is moving in the direction of the Facebooks and the Googles. It's not like that. There's a big movement, but yeah, it's industry specific, I think.
Okay, so you still sort of then, if I'm hearing you correctly, you still need to package yourself based on the industry that you find yourself in. And if that doesn't resonate with you, then it's almost like, what do you want to call it? A sign that maybe this is not me.
Yeah, I'd say so. You're gonna have a hard time sort of fitting into the culture, and you know, it's a tough balancing act, because in the economy we find ourselves in, something like that seems like a luxury. Like, I'm not going to take this job because it doesn't fit in my, like, you've been unemployed for like 5 years, and now here you get an offer from a place that doesn't fit your, you know, you're not going to turn that down. So it seems like a bit of a luxury, but I mean, that is a subjective thing, and you would have to decide, you know. Yeah.
It's actually very interesting because one of my best friends, they are pansexual, and they sort of dress very, what's the word, out there. You know the LGBTIQ community, they generally very eccentric. And they got to work for a company, Woolworths actually, and their management, because they said, okay, your CV is brilliant. And they're like, yes, but this is my package. Take it. And they actually were like, teach us your ways. Tell us, because this is the space that we don't understand, and we want to be a part of the, you know, an inclusive community. So that speaks to that conscious capitalism. Do you think we are brave enough as a nation to, you know, to go down that route, to say, take me as I am?
Well, there's people doing it, and that's a very subjective thing. That's to each his own. Like I said, to one person it's like, I'm not, because I believe in these values so much, and to the next person it's, hey, I need to put food on the table. I'm not trying to turn down a job. So that's a very,
and that is a reality.
Yeah, that's just the reality we find ourselves in. It's like, I'll take it while I look for something else in some cases, but it's a luxury to turn, for most people, to turn down a job because of a misfit in culture.
Oh, I'll get to that. I just want to read Daphne's Gugu's question. Sorry, I call her Daphne because she's my cousin, and I know.
Oh, okay.
So she says, with how you show up, social media is it worth going back in time to clean up your socials? Because the internet doesn't, and we've seen this. And if someone has time and wants to bring up something racist, sexist, homophobic, you post it way. And I think we've seen some instances like this. What's his name? Boity. She had to defend herself for her homophobic tendencies back then.
Which is oh my gosh, I don't know about that one. I think I saw it as well with Kevin Hart, where he was supposed to host the Oscars and they went back, and it was also a homophobic thing. I think it's unfair, because if I also go back to the things I used to post 10 years ago, I don't recognize that person. And it's like, that's almost denying the person the opportunity to grow and learn. So I don't think I would delete them, although some of the stuff is horrendous. But it's unfair to me to judge me and nail me to the cross because of something I said 15 years ago. This is me now. So it's interesting. I mean, there might be different opinions around the table, but it's unfair to me to pull something from that long. Look, if I said it 2 years ago, you know, but something from 10, 15 years ago, and to say, well, you said this about race and this and this and that. No, we grow. Come on, we grow, we learn, and I'm not that person anymore. It's not fair. I don't think it's fair.
It's just one of the, for me, I've always struggled with this whole be authentic, because being authentic means I get to share my best, not so much my worst, but then am I learning from my worst and sort of packaging it in what you call it. And corporate has always been like, put your best foot forward. People
Yeah.
that's usually like, okay, so I must pretend now, and hence depression.
Yeah.
It's actually a relevant question because the cancel culture is here. I mean, I remember there's this guy who worked at Standard Bank who said something very stupid, but then his job, he was the chief financial officer at that time. Well, it turned out that he did a degree also.
Yeah.
So it's a very fine line from.
It really is. Also because, again, I'm going to bring it back. Like if you're employed and you're at the mercy, maybe the mercy is not the right word, but like you're employed, you sign a contract, you sign a social media policy where they tell you can't say stuff like this. And in some instances that, hey, I want to be able to share my political views. I want to be able to share my religious views. I want to be able to share because now, come on, like what can I now and not can I say and not say? So it's just one of those things. Like I look at someone like Elon Musk, who doesn't give a toss. He doesn't care, that guy. He just bursts. But he's also Elon Musk. Like he's the richest, or I don't know if he's still the richest man in the world. So he can say whatever and the world will adjust. For the rest of us, unfortunately, like it's like be authentic, but not too authentic. You know what I mean? So I totally get you. Yeah.
Let me see. Any points from the people that are on the line?
Why are the people so shy?
Very, very shy.
Very shy.
Let me check what Google is saying. But the industries within industries, example, in-house marketing teams and finance and insurance firms, I wouldn't say you must rethink your whole career, but we do need to work in spaces and for companies that have values and cultures that match our personal values, development goals, our passion. This is especially true, and it's actually a trend because I think 67% of millennials say they don't trust companies and brand that they show up there. Even worse, Gen Z, that's so that those guys from 95 onwards, 4% of those say like they don't trust brands, and what they generally look for in a company is their vision, their values, and their purpose.
Yeah.
But how easy is it to then or carve yourself in a way to show up in that manner for the companies that are aligned to such visions and values?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were saying, hey, like it's like, what is carving yourself? Are you completely abandoning you? It's like a bit of a give and take, I guess. Like, okay, I can get with this because I don't like this, but okay, but this overrides this, so I'll take it. So, I mean, your values are, your belief system, what guides you, your motivation. So if in the main, I mean, look, there's no organization, let's be honest, that's got bad values. Everybody's values are great and they've got this amazing purpose and mission statement. It's not until you're there and you live it. So I think for both parties, if you're interviewing, everyone's going to put their best foot forward. The company's going to do the same, and as are you, until you're actually there and in a situation where the company has an opportunity to show their values of integrity, of humanness, of whatever, accountability, and the same for you. You'll never really know that just at the outset until you're fully immersed in the organization. Yeah.
Very interesting, because I remember a situation, again, Gen Zs, I love the generation because they break boundaries. This guy comes at me via LinkedIn. He sends me a message. Hi, I see you work at this company. Can you tell me more about their culture? It's very interesting the way that I found that quite fascinating, and it seems to be a growing trend.
Yeah.
Do companies see, them? Do they value personal branding as part of their employee value proposition, so to speak? Because if they don't live their culture, I'll definitely say, do not apply for this position. Do they see the link between personal branding and employee value proposition, such that employees then become the brand ambassadors, so to speak.
Yeah. And that's, I like that point about the employees. So you know a company is a good company when it's not the company themselves saying how amazing they are, but it's the employees of that company. Like, wow, what an amazing organization. So they probably do, but like I said earlier, it's difficult to establish that very early on, because of course I'm going to say I've got a good work ethic, and I'm this and I'm that. I mean, I'm put all of my good qualities forward, and it's not until I'm employed that, the real me comes out. So they probably do, but it's just, I think, you as an employee and the employer, you kind of take a chance on each other, with all the information, obviously, that's at the employer's disposal, and vice versa as well. Yeah.
Very interesting. I've got one last question, I guess, on my side. Very interesting example that you mentioned with Katlego and Uvusi Thembekwayo. But then does that mean that personal branding is reserved for the influence, the people that are out there, or is it something that could help me in growing in the corporate space?
No, definitely not. I think I used them because I think a lot of people on this call would probably know them and relate. Also because of, the influence they have and being public figures. I think is that much more pressure, or their brand is that much more bigger. They're big brands, compared to you and I. We have influence, but it's on a smaller scale. They have a bigger sort of they influence. So definitely not. We all, like I said earlier in my presentation, have a personal brand, whether you realize it or not. It's not reserved for the elite few. And it's really not like this abstract concept. Just think of personal branding about like, who are you now, and who do you aspire to be? What are the things that you're good at? What are the things you want people to know you for? What are the things that make you come alive? And then just gradually start to craft that, whatever it is for you. And like I said right at the beginning, it's for others it's easy, and for others it takes time to define what that is. So yeah, just think about it as like, who am I? And it's a simple question, but it's also so loaded. Like, who is Siabulela Maeza? Who is he? Like, and like I said at the beginning, people will tell you my name, my surname, and my title, and I'm from this place. And people don't really know how to answer that question. It's quite a deep one, as simple as it may seem. But yeah, maybe that's something for you to ask, like, who are you? Like, answer me in like literally 30 seconds. Who are you at your core? And I think when you can answer that for yourself, then you're like, hey, this is what I want to put out there. This is what I want people to affiliate with me. And this is who I aspire to be as a person. And obviously continuing to develop yourself, because it's an ongoing journey.
I love that. Gugu saying, but there are organizations that need to be called out on not living up to their values. And Gen Z is big on that.
Yeah.
On your side?
Oh, definitely. And I think Gen Zs are really, I think much like I'm a millennial, and I think much like when we came in and there was the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, and we were, the millennials.
The missing,
Now it's like they haven't seen anything, right? Now these Gen Zs are coming in and they just like really, rocking the boat. So companies do need to be held to account. And I think the Gen Zs really it's almost like they have nothing to lose. They are not scared to resign with nothing lined up. I think the millennials are also like that, but I think the Gen Zs are like really they take it a step further. So it's good, and I think we can all learn from that. You know how corporate is. You really have to watch what you say, to whom you say it. It's like how you say it. So you've got to be mindful of that balancing act of, this is my job, but you also want to express yourself, and you don't want to be victimized. And but it's something we can take a page from them about holding organizations accountable to, these are your values, but when this happened, you didn't show compassion. Yeah, you didn't show the compassion or humanness that you claimed to have.
Conscious capitalism is where it seems like we're heading. Speaking of which, what is the future of personal branding? What does that look like? Do we all need to be influencers now?
Oh my gosh. What is an influencer? What is that? Oh my, I personally don't like the word influencer. I know they are out there doing their thing and them. I don't like that word. I think we all of us in our little spheres, some have a larger influence, followers. The number of followers you have is, the currency right now. So I go, well, how many followers you have on Twitter? How many followers you have on Instagram? And that's the currency. And I honestly, I couldn't be bothered. For me, it's, I think we all need to have a voice and be vocal about the things that matter to us, whatever that is, and continue to put that out. And in that way, you're still influencing, no matter how small the scale. I know that it's a thing. And I mean, let's be honest, a lot of them do it. That's why they want to amass all these followers so that brands can come to them and say, oh, you've got 5 million followers, come and partner with us. It's purely based on that. Let's be honest. I mean, it's based on the number of followers you have. That's why they want to partner with you in most instances. So that's a whole other conversation though. I'm not going to go into it. But I mean, to answer your question, I really think the journey of your brand and just developing, for me, it's just about continuous development of who you are as a person, because like I said, you'll never reach a destination. I had goals 5 years ago, maybe I reached them, or maybe I'm still trying to attain them. And then I have others and I'm in pursuit of those, and so it's like an ongoing thing. So it'll never like have we're not talking about personal branding or you as just developing yourself as a person. I think it's a continuous journey that we should all be on.
Wow. Well, we have to end there. This was beautiful. And I love the fact that you said something about find your voice, because it seems personal branding is actually the journey towards finding that voice, because then this is something that I can talk about. Maybe not say this because it's not relevant or contribute to my brand in any way, shape, or form, so to speak. Ntuthuko, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking your time to share so much insights. I really, really appreciate it. To the rest of you guys, thank you. I see some people have sort of dropped off and they've left their thank you messages. This was so informative, very insightful. Completely agree. I will catch you whenever. I think we do have another session next month, not next week. Next month, to another topic that speaks to, it's actually a book review around a corporate guide. It's called A Black Girl's Guide to Corporate South Africa. Looking forward to have the speaker actually sharing her insights and sort of picking her nuggets to see how much we can actually navigate that.
Oh, nice. I would like to attend. Please do.
Definitely, I will definitely share that. I'll definitely share that. And whilst you guys are on that, please have a look at our website. It's bmfonline.coza. I know in the KZN region, we have launched a couple of 2 initiatives actually. One that's focusing on the entrepreneurs, and then that's one that's focusing on mentoring you aspiring managers. Have a look at our Facebook page. It's called BMF KwaZulu Natal. Have a look at that, and then we'll be sharing a lot more of the stuff that's coming up in the coming months. That is it on my side. I'm so glad that the internet did not betray me like it did.
I was betrayed by the lighting. I was betrayed. No,
you're actually fine because I can still see you. So
oh my gosh, this is like contrary to my brand. Please, people.
It's not accentuating the brand, is it?
It's not contrary to it. But thank you so much for having me. I had a great time and great discussions, unpacking. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more of these. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're definitely gonna have some of them. You're gonna be our what you call it, alumni, BMF.
All right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone. Okay. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.